Hello, friends at Columbia. It's Walt and I back again. Hope you guys are managing. I hope you're doing okay. I hope conditions there are tolerable, and I hope that you're doing your meditation practice to help keep you solid and confident and stable in the midst of hard times. So for me, I'm doing well. My family's okay. One of my family members got pretty sick, but she's okay now. And now we have a family friend who has the virus. So it's around for sure. But so far so good. My grandson works at the zoo, and it's been closed, but it's going to open tomorrow. So he'll have his part-time job back, and families will be at the zoo, and kids will be looking at lions and tigers, and life will begin to return to normal a little bit. So glad to be back with you, and miss being there. And I'll pass it over to Walt.
And hello from here. I'm glad to be back, glad to be talking with you, not back, but in your presence anyway. Yeah, time is moving along slowly. We're all hunkered down, as I'm sure that you are too, kind of waiting this thing out, trying to be patient. There's not too much else that can be done. We like to visit our grandkids, and we're not able to do that. And being of our age, we're kind of, we have to be careful. So we're kind of stuck and do some walks outdoors, but the normal summertime activities are not here. So I'm sure it's just very minor stuff compared to what you guys have to endure. But I think the biggest thing is I'm impatient about being able to see the guys that I've kind of become more familiar with, and I too hope that you are doing as best as you can there. So, Stephen, shall we begin?
Yes. Okay, so if you're joining us for the first time, or you're relatively new to this group, this is a mindfulness and meditation group. So we'll be doing some meditations, some short guided meditations, and encouraging you to meditate every day between our sessions. So the bell begins the meditation and ends the meditation. So now I'll ring the bell. So please come into a position that's comfortable and relaxed and upright. You can also lie down if you like. Your eyes can be completely closed if you want to, or they can be just slightly open. If they're slightly open, we're not really looking out of them. It's just sort of lets a little bit of light in. And we want to sit in a way with our hands and the rest of our body that we can sit still without moving at all for the next 5 to 10 minutes. A still body creates a still mind. A nervous body creates a nervous mind. A relaxed body creates a relaxed mind. An alert body creates an alert mind. It's always good to begin a meditation by focusing our attention on breathing and sitting or lying down, which means we're using our sense of feeling, our touch. We feel the body touching whatever it's on. We feel the clothes on the body, the air on the body. Feel the outside of the body and the inside of the body. And focus our attention on the body breathing. And make our breaths deeper and slower and longer. And let the breaths be very smooth. You can feel the body rise and fall with the breath. We can feel the air moving through the nose and the throat and the lungs. You might feel as if you're riding the waves of the breath. Like you're in a small boat on a gentle sea, and the in-breath lifts you up, and the out-breath slowly brings you down, and the breath is moving like the waves in an ocean. Calming the body. We can even sense the water of the ocean in our mouth, in our eyes, in our body. And the breath rises and falls all by itself. All we need to do is ride the waves of the breath. If thoughts appear in the space of the mind, that's okay. They're like birds flying over the ocean. Just relax and let go. Let the breath breathe you. If thoughts come into the space of your mind, that's okay. Just don't get into them. Return your attention to the movement in the body or the image of the ocean. Let's take a few more breaths. And just if you would, just notice for a moment, notice how your body feels. Notice your breath. And notice the mood of the mind. How was that for you, Walt?
It's a nice experience, Stephen. Thank you.
Good.
You know, it's easier when there's someone, when I'm hearing you, than it is when I'm all alone. There's something about it, about going along with you, that makes sense. And I hope the guys, wherever you're viewing this, do participate, because it's a nice experience. So shall we go into our program now that we've had a little experience?
I think we're already in it.
All right. Well, you know, we're you know, there may be guys who are watching this for the first time and haven't seen us before and haven't been in our groups, but we have had ongoing groups at CCI, and we will be continuing. And that's, by the way, that's courtesy of the chaplains. So we appreciate Chaplain Teslick, Chaplain O'Boyle, for making these videos possible and making it possible for us to participate in groups there. We've talked about in our previous sessions, you don't have to, it's not necessary that you were viewing previous sessions, but what we did talk about was meditation and mindfulness is a skill that we're developing, the ability to be aware, to be better aware of what's going on with our bodies, with our emotions, with our thoughts. And we can develop this over time. Meditation that you just experienced is actually practice. It's not the goal, but it's practice. It's practice so that we are good at making these moves. And so when we get into the real game, we're better at it. And the real game is life. So we put the practice of paying attention to our breath, paying attention to the way our body feels, paying attention to our thoughts even. We get better at these so that when we're in the high stress situation in life, we're more aware of what's going on. We can kind of notice if there's the surge of anger happening maybe at the very front edge of it before it gets out of control. So the meditation is practice so that we kind of have a little bit more control rather than go into automatic pilot, automatic whatever our habits have been. And last time, as you remember, we gave some instructions about coming back to the breath when you're in a stress situation, just to be able to calm down a bit, just to get a little grip on yourself so that you can react better. Now, today, I thought we would kind of move into a different kind of situation. Fear is one thing that everyone has experienced. And there's the fear when there's something right in front of you. You know, you know, it's an automatic surge. But there's another kind of fear that's kind of ongoing, that doesn't stop. And it's not necessarily related to a single object. And that kind of ongoing slow burn that stays with you has the name anxiety. It's like if you're anxious about something, it's out there. That ongoing anxiety could be about a specific thing that's coming up. It could be about a general thing. You might be anxious because you have a PRC coming up, or you might be anxious because there's all this COVID out there and nobody knows too much about it. And there's that kind of general anxiety that doesn't go away. There's no event. Or there could be an anxiety that you're carrying with you, that we all are carrying with us, where it's not related to anything in particular. At least we don't know what it's related to. We're just carrying it with us. And I think that some people have greater experience of this, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And other people might be carrying anxiety without really recognizing that it's there. It's in the background, but they don't recognize it's there. So that's what I want to talk about, because this is another very practical use of the mindfulness ability that we're developing as we do our daily meditation practice. As we become more mindful, we kind of are better at noticing the physical feelings. If you got a strong anxiety, the strong ongoing continuous fear, it's strong, you know it. You know, you're just kind of always on edge. But if you've got the kind of slow burn that's there in the background, it might be affecting you. It might be influencing the way you react, might be dragging you down, might be affecting your sleep without you even knowing why. But this physical feeling can come up if you're paying attention to the way your body, the subtle signals from your body. And I think one of the go-to moves with mindfulness is to be trying to pay attention to our body all the time. Not just when you get a mosquito bite and it itches, but when there are more subtle things that are out there. And I'm not just talking about the aches and pains you can't do anything about, but what about these emotions that are there riding underneath everything, riding in the background? If we can become more aware that they're there, then bringing them to light can depower them. So going back to anxiety here, there's the mental component, the thought component of anxiety, of what is it that I'm anxious about? So I notice that I'm anxious because I'm paying attention to my body and I'm paying attention to my feelings, very subtle over time. If I notice it, then I can kind of explore, what is it that's causing this? It could be very obvious, but it might not be so obvious. And so you kind of explore, you investigate, what's behind this? Because one of the things about fear is that you know that you're fearful of a thing. Anxiety, you know, may not be all that obvious. So you kind of pay attention. It's kind of anticipation. It's about the future. It's paying attention to what might happen in the future. And if you can kind of narrow down and pin down what it is that's causing my anxiety, that's a big gain right there. That's a step forward, because you can recognize, oh, that's out. Fear. But on the other hand, maybe it's not. Maybe it's one of those things where it's a risk, it could happen, but who knows? And just exploring that with as cool a head as possible helps take some of the power out of the anxiety. Just kind of, oh, I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling anxious because, oh, my family might get sick. And that's making me, okay, knowing that that's what I'm anxious about. Then I went, well, you know, is anyone sick now? Well, no, not that we know. Okay, good. Are they doing the right things? Well, no, they're not doing the right things. They could get sick. Okay, good. But I've kind of put it into a into a into a frame. You know, I know I'm anxious because my family might be sick and they're not doing the things that they ought to be doing. That right there, you've kind of taken it from this free-floating thing that's debilitating. In other words, it's kind of dragging you down, and made it something that's very specific. I can kind of pay attention to it. That already has taken a lot of energy out of the anxiety, because there's not too much. Can I do anything about this? They're not doing the right things. Can I do anything about this? Well, I can chew them out. Do they ever do what I tell them to do? No. Okay, well, okay, so I really can't do too much about this. Now you've kind of got this thing where is the anxiety doing me any good? No, not really. Okay, this whole approach is kind of trying to put a handle on your feelings so that it's not free floating, it's kind of contained, and it does work. It's very, very valuable. At this point, I wonder, Stephen, do you have anything to say? I'm going to go on with this, but anything
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah, this is really good. So the difference between worry and anxiety, well, I should say what's the same about worry and anxiety, they're both about the future. So we got regrets about the past. We got worries about the future. It's the same kind of thing. It's just it's focused ahead. And worry is about a particular thing. Oh, I'm worried, that the car is going to break down. That's a particular thing. We're worried about that. Anxiety, as you say, it's more like cloud-like. It's like a fog. You can't just pin it down. So one thing I think that's helpful in dealing with anxiety or any emotion, what an emotion really is, when you look at it from the point of view of meditation, an emotion is two things. It's a thought and it's a feeling. So emotions happen in the mind and in the body, right? So if I think of something really pleasant, like a piece of chocolate cake, that's a thought. I'll get a feeling in the body. Oh, that's pleasant, right? Anxiety has thoughts attached to it, as Walt said. Oh, maybe my family's going to get sick, or maybe something, maybe this or that. It's the thought. What is the feeling in the body? So I think this may change from person to person, but a lot of times we'll even talk about it. So you ever heard butterflies in your stomach? Have you ever heard that? Maybe that's an old thing. I don't know. They don't say it anymore. But it's like you're nervous. It's like you're anxious about something. You feel it in your belly. You feel this tingling in your belly, and it's not comfortable. Anxiety is a feeling that we don't want. We don't try for it, usually. Unless maybe we go to a horror movie and we want to get real scared about something. But anxiety is not pleasant usually. And when we feel it in the body, the way I feel it is, I feel it tingling in my skin. That's how I, this is, and if it's bigger, it goes into fear. Well, fear, you get really alert, and you get all this energy because you may have to run away or fight. But anxiety is, like Walt said, it's a slower burn than that. So you feel it in your belly. Maybe you feel it in your skin. Your breath gets more shallow, and it's important that we point out how this feels in the body, because it's an emotion, and all emotions are felt in the body. Once we recognize how it feels to be anxious, then we know we're anxious. Okay. Oh, I'm feeling anxious again. Okay. If I can do something about it, great. I'm going to try to do it. If I can't do something about it, like this virus thing, I can't change that. Then I just have to recognize, oh, I'm feeling anxious. And I can go into what it is I'm feeling anxious about, or I can just say, anxiety. That's the name of the feeling. Anxiety. And breathe. Recognize that this feeling is here. It's in the mind, it's in the body, it's dominating me. Recognize that it's here. Breathe in and out a couple times and let it go. It will die down if we give it our attention. And then sometime later it'll come up again. And then we see it's up again. There's nothing we can do about it. We don't like this. Breathe in, breathe out a couple times, and it will reduce. It will go down. Has that been your experience with this kind of stuff, Walt?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I should say that I know I'm very familiar with anxiety. Earlier in my career, I hated public speaking. And a couple times, 2 or 3 times a year, I had to say a few words to big audiences. And it wasn't often enough that I got ever used to it. And there would be times when I had to give something like an after dinner speech. And so it was like at 7 o'clock, and it would, the entire afternoon, I was a wreck, just a wreck, because I was looking ahead.
You weren't in the present moment. You didn't know mindfulness. You didn't know how to.
Right. And one of the keys about this thing about, there's the thought aspect that you mentioned and the feeling aspect, the emotion aspect. The thought aspect, what's the best thought that you can use? Well, right here and now, I'm okay. You know, that's the way that I could have gotten through those afternoons rather than being a wreck. You know, right now I'm okay, and I'll deal with it when it comes. Another thought that usually doesn't work very well, but it is a thought, which is, well, I've handled it so far. I've handled these things so far. You know, that's a good reassuring thought. It doesn't always work. But the thought that does work is, right now I'm okay.
Yeah, that's great, because the anxiety is taking you out of the present moment and putting you into an unknown future.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know how I remember being a little kid, and I was raised by a military man, and when we had food on our plate at a meal, we had to eat that food. And I remember the broccoli that was always overcooked and kind of gray looking and limp, and they'd give me this broccoli, and I knew I would puke if I had to eat that broccoli, but I could not leave the table until that broccoli was gone. And I was in a state of anxiety. And I remember having a thought, just being a little kid, I won't be here forever. Sometime I'll be away from this table. This will end. That was a good one. Now, the way I ended it is I had a dog, and the dog would sit between my feet with his head looking up at me. And when the parents weren't looking, I would give him meat sometimes. But when I had that broccoli, when they weren't looking, I would slip that broccoli into his open mouth, and he would have swallowed it before he even knew what it was. That dog saved me. But I remember sitting there and having the thought, I won't be here always. And that's exactly what you're saying, is that right now, it's okay. I'm not going to get lost in the future. This will end. This will come to an end.
Yeah. And it's almost like, how do you remember to think along those lines? And well, when we're practicing meditation, when we're sitting and we're just sitting and breathing and watching our breath, and maybe paying attention to our thoughts too at the same time, we are developing a habit. We're building this habit which can come into play, where it's almost automatic now. It's automatic. If I'm feeling anxiety, I know it. I'm much more perceptive about it, you know, and other feelings too. So this meditation does have payoffs. And
Yeah.
people in the groups, you know, and both of us have experienced this multiple times. A guy in the group will come in and say, gee, I've been practicing this and whatever. I was on the phone and my girlfriend said, what's going on? You're changed. You're more easygoing, like people, or they'll say, it's so great to hear this. A guy will come in and say, well, what happened the last couple of weeks? Well, if I weren't in this group, I'd be in SEG right now. So it's powerful stuff. It's not obvious. You don't always realize it. You can't feel it, but then you look back and say, oh, I dealt with that situation in a different way than I used to.
Yeah. One of my teachers tells a story about, this is a true story. All these people were on this leaky boat. It was maybe 20 people in this leaky boat, and they were out in a storm, and they were running away from a country that was having war, and they would be killed if they stayed, and they were trying to get somewhere else that was better. And this big storm came up, and the boat's tossing, and everybody in the boat's freaking out. They're screaming, they're afraid, they're going to die. But one person in the boat, who was a meditator, sat calmly in the middle of the boat. And after a while, the other people in the boat noticed this guy. This guy's calm. Well, I could be calm too. And pretty soon, the people in the boat calmed down, and then that made the boat more stable. And then the boat didn't sink. So when you're surrounded by people who are all anxious, in the environment that I think that most of you would agree you're in, there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear on the part of lots and lots of people. If you can be the quiet one, the calm one, not always necessarily, but sometimes, if you can be calm while the other people are freaking out, your calmness will spread to them. And then people will relax more, and the situation won't be quite as bad. So the anxiety comes from within us, but it also comes from outside us too, doesn't it? Wouldn't you say? Well,
we have a huge influence on the people around us, whether or not they admit it. Let me go pick up on something that you said earlier, Stephen, and that's that when we're addressing these emotions, it doesn't work so well if we try to squelch them, run away from them. It's better if we look them in the eye. And I'd like to talk from this angle about anxiety also, that if a person has this anxiety and it's kind of there and it's not going away, one of the ways to deal with it is actually to try to make it stronger, to actually try to make that feeling stronger. And the way and this is applying mindfulness in a very direct way. Don't pay attention so much to what the object is that's causing anxiety. So this is kind of this is different than what I was talking about a few minutes ago. Rather than trying to probe what's causing this and get a handle on it, in this case, what you're doing is paying attention to the feeling itself, not the thing that causes the feeling, but the feeling itself. For example, I might feel very tight in my chest. My breathing might be affected. My thoughts are very scattered. They're just all over the place. I can't concentrate. Whatever it is that I'm feeling about the anxiety, I just kind of pay attention to that, make it even stronger. Get it really flowing if I can, and stay with it. And this is the opposite of running away from it, trying to make it go away, because what it does, often when we try to make something go away, we only increase it. If I try to make my anxiety go away, I make myself more anxious. I'm forcing I'm trying to swim upstream. It doesn't work very well. But if I go with it and go with that anxiety, what's it feel like? and really get into the feeling of it, then I notice, you know what? This is not killing me. It's not murdering me. You know, like, oh, it doesn't feel good at all, but it's only a feeling. And this is applying the mindfulness just to watch what's happening. And this is a different way of getting a handle on, in this case, you're getting a handle on the actual emotion part of it rather than on the thought part of it. But you might try this out. You might experiment. You might even try, you know, I don't feel like I'm very anxious right now. And sitting and meditating, I might say, well, let's just watch and see if any feelings come up, and maybe some anxiety will come up. And then kind of just stay with that feeling. Try it out while meditating or after you've meditated. But try really practicing. This is, again, practice makes us better. Not perfect, makes us better. Try really emphasizing the feeling. Again, not the thing that causes the feeling, not the thought, but the feeling. Emphasize it, emphasize it, emphasize it. And you might find that you can't make it any stronger. You might find that it's actually eroding. It's getting a little weaker, contrary to what you want to have happen. And that's basically what we're doing is our body, our inner mind, our wisdom mind is kind of getting a little more powerful vis-a-vis this emotion. So just suggesting that as a different way of dealing with strong anxiety. Now, some people have, and people know, have very strong anxiety all the time. So don't do any of this stuff. Don't do anything we talked about if it's not feeling good. If this is feeling like this is the wrong thing, it's making me worse, then don't go there. We're not professional psychologists. You know, we're talking about what has worked for us, but there may be situations out there where what we suggest in this individual case might not be the right thing for you. So I just want to put that out there too.
Should we have our closing meditation?
Shall we do that? I'll do a little closing meditation, about 5 minutes.
Yeah,
meditation.
well, yeah, we have about 5 minutes left on our time.
Okay, a little less than that then. All right, so get into, please go along with us. If you're sitting alone in your cell or whatever, get into this just for 4 minutes. So we'll start by listening to the bell, so you don't have to listen to words anymore. Just pay attention to what's happening with the bell. I'll ring it 3 times. So come into the present moment. Transfer your attention from the sounds over to the feelings in your body as you're just sitting. Notice what it feels like to sit there, the physical sensations. The motion of breathing. Maybe there's some cool air coming in through the nose. Be present to what's happening to you right now. It nearly always happens that the mind jumps around into the future, what's going to happen next. or back in the past, what have we been talking about, or any random thing. And that's just natural, it's normal. But if the mind gets too far afield from what's happening right now, bring it back. Bring it back to now. We've suggested in the past you might count your breaths if that helps. You don't have to do that. Just the natural rhythm of your own breath right now. Don't force anything. Allow your body to relax. Allow your body, your natural peacefulness to emerge. You might have to come back to the present moment over and over again. Just do it in a very smooth, relaxed way. No forcing, no tension. Paying attention to your body. Let your shoulders relax. We often carry tension in our jaw. Let the jaw relax. The face. There are dozens of tiny muscles around the eyes and in the cheeks. Release. Coming back to the present, coming back to the body over and over again. Now we'll have a few more breaths, and I'll ring the bell. Notice the entire cycle of in breath, out breath.
Well, thank you for joining us on this video, and please practice. Set aside a time and a place every day when you can have some privacy and some quiet, whenever you can arrange that. If it can be the same time every day, that's good. And do some meditation, some breath and body meditation, or any of the other meditations we've taught. Do it every day. It's just like doing a physical workout. If you want to build up your muscles, you lift weights every day. If you want to increase your consciousness, your brain power, concentration, your peacefulness, then do this every day. Do it for yourself, do it for your family, and do it for everyone around you. Thank you so much for your practice, and I'll see you next time. Walt?
And I guess my final words will be in the present moment and reflect, are you okay right now, right now? And looking ahead, have you handled everything so far? You can probably handle everything going forward too. Be as well as you possibly can be. Hang in there.